My name is V, and today we're going to be talking about. Well, first and foremost, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is V, and I've created this YouTube channel for one purpose only, to help all of you guys in three different areas when it comes to lifestyle and growth, right? And I like to go through each one of them one by one. And I'm going to explain to you why I'm going through these different areas and what I look to help you accomplish. Three different areas, right? The first one is what I call the financial economy. This is pertaining things such as what you're spending money on, right? Basically, every corporation and their mother are trying to get the most out of you. It doesn't take me to tell you guys that there's been a huge increase of cost of living expenses, right? From your local groceries, gas kind of goes up and down, but everything, even fast food. Fast food at one point was convenient because it was both fast and cheap. Now it's neither one of those, right? And therefore it's useless. But not just that, the fact that corporations as a whole are just trying to squeeze every single dollar and cent from you that they can. And this is actually what we're going to be talking about today with Sony. But before I get there, I'm going to continue explaining financial economy, right? So what I mean by financial economy is that area, corporations squeezing every dollar and cent they can out of you. But it's not just limited to that, right? Could be corporations, could be the gurus you see online on YouTube trying to sell you courses to make $1 billion, right? Somehow, even though if I knew how to make $1 billion, I wouldn't be making courses because it means more competition and the market becomes saturated. But that's a story for another day. Only quote unquote models, as I'm going to call them, if you know, you know, right? OF, whatever. This so called models, right, who want to squeeze every cent out of you by you drooling over them and, you know, being engaged and falling in love with them, I guess, because there's all these idiots out here who really think they build a connection with these brats. But anyway, so all these areas, right, and of course there's scammers, right, the guys that try to trick you and take away your money. And I could just go on and on, but that's financial economy. I want to help you guys save money, grow money, and avoid those types of scams, both legal and illegal scams. That's financial economy. That's my first pillar. Second pillar is attention economy. Because the thing about attention economy is that your attention is extremely important. That's why corporations, that's why all these YouTube channels, Rumble channels, television, websites, advertisements, everybody wants it. Because with attention, the attention economy, as I call it, the second pillar, basically by captivating your attention, right? By getting your attention, right? Basically, it means that there's a level of investment from your part. And therefore, when you're investing into something or someone, right, that leads into you emotionally becoming invested in one way or another, right? Either, you know, you start drooling over this OF brats, right, because you think they're in love with you somehow, or you start looking up to these fake gurus, right, that, you know, the fake alpha males type, right, that you believe them when they say they try to help you when they're not, etc., right? So attention economy leads to investment, and also not just from a financial standpoint does it cost you, but also it's propaganda. Everything you watch, you read, is a form of propaganda or programming, right? From one ideology to another. So you gotta be careful about what you're watching, who you're watching, because that influences your mentality greatly, and that can affect other variables, right? Like voting and what you do with your life and etc. Which I'm not gonna get into, but that's the attention economy. The last one is the third pillar I like to call is the freedom economy. And what it is, and it's actually tied to what we're going to talk about right now regarding the news with Sony, is the freedom to choose, right? And that is essentially giving you the options of what you're doing with your money, what you own, right? Because there's tangible assets and there's non-tangible assets. And essentially, the bottom line is if you don't physically hold it, you don't own it. I do believe in that. Now, obviously, you have different things, right? Like cryptocurrency that is remote or digital. I mean, you don't actually own it, at least not physically, but that's a whole nother topic for another day. But essentially, these are the three pillars I want to focus on: the financial economy, the attention economy, and of course the freedom economy, right? And this ties into this, right? What we're going to talk about from PlayStation themselves, right? Physical disc production ending in January 2028 for new games releasing on PlayStation consoles. That is a disgrace, ladies and gents. This is a disgrace because, the thing about Sony is this. I grew up playing PlayStation. I own all consoles, right? But I've always been a PlayStation guy, right? But I saw the writing on the wall when they started creating video games that were trash, right? And they were implementing politics, right? Instead of making actually good written games, right? And all started, in my opinion, around the time where The Last of Us came out, right? And it just went downhill from there. Now you can argue the 2010s, a little bit, but in my opinion, The Last of Us was the catalyst, mainly the main catalyst for the things to come, right? Or GTA 5 or whatever. Anyway, I don't want to get off track. So the point being is that PlayStation has been in decline from the quality standpoint, but this is just the straw that broke camel's back. Because if you're gonna eliminate physical media, you're gonna get backlash, and they've been getting a lot of backlash. Okay, so physical disc production ending in January 2028, right? Now, as consumer preferences and the broader entertainment industry continue to shift away from physical disc to digital, physical game disc production for all new games releasing on PlayStation consoles will be discontinued starting January 2028. Following this date, new games will be available on PlayStation Store and at retailers in digital formats only. This transition has no impact on games that are already released or will be releasing prior to January 2028 in this format. This is a quote-unquote natural, I added the quote-unquote, this is a natural direction for Sony Interactive Entertainment to adapt to consumer trends as the general preference for digital media significantly outpaces physical discs. The transition will enable us to align more closely with how most of our community prefers to access and play games today. This is OBS, obviously, PR, whatever, but man, they're getting flack for it. And, I can pull those up, whatever, but this is a big problem. Now, this channel, I'm not going to be covering gaming. I'm not interested in covering gaming. I'm interested in covering the 3 pillars that I went over with you, right? But the reason why I decided to cover PlayStation is because it's a perfect example of corporate outreach and corporations wanting to absolutely squeeze every dollar and cent they can from you. Okay. Now, this is a big issue, not just for the gaming industry, but in my opinion, it's going to set a sort of standard for the different industries, right? Because this seems to be mainly a problem with video games. You don't see this BS being pulled for Blu-ray movie releases or anything like that, right? In fact, they come with a Blu-ray disc and a digital code on the box, right? When you just pay, what, $20 for them, or $30, $40 for Blu-ray or 4K? But it seems somehow that corporations like Sony are really pushing this in gaming. I don't know why gaming is the catalyst, but I digress. The point is this. This sets a bad example because if they get their way in this, that means that essentially other corporations are going to see. They're going to write no. Now, in my personal opinion, Microsoft is going to follow. Remember back in the 2013 debacle where Microsoft tried to go completely digital, and then Sony only won the generation because they decided to be smart enough last minute to switch to, we're going to keep physical media, right? And that's basically what won them the generation. But see, Sony has a history of once they get in over their heads, they start making dumbass decisions, right? Case in point, the PlayStation 2, when they sold as tremendously as it did, right? What happened with the PS3? It launch price of what, $600 to $800, right? And of course, they lost that generation because Microsoft came in and said, we're going to give you an awesome console for a better price. And they were humbled, right? And then, of course, the architecture of the console and a bunch of other things that basically held them back. I believe they were selling consoles at a loss, right? But they were humbled. And then, of course, again, the script turned around on the PlayStation 4 era with what I just mentioned about Xbox One to go all digital, and then PlayStation was like, nope. And so that made one PlayStation generation. But this generation, PlayStation has gotten so much traffic, so many players, right? That now they're again back in over their heads. And not only have their quality of games diminished greatly, like I mentioned earlier, they're just trash, but now they have the audacity to tell you and me that they're not going to produce physical media anymore. And that is an issue because essentially you're paying for licenses, right? That you're paying for licenses. And so that means if you don't have access to physical disc, the only way to get games from them is through their PlayStation networks or their PlayStation Store. And of course, if you can only buy games from the PlayStation Store, which they completely wholly own, and you cannot get a game elsewhere, like PC, right? PC, you have Valve, you have GOG, and then you have other websites. But here you only have PlayStation Store. That is essentially, ladies and gentlemen, a monopoly. And that is a problem because now they're not incentivized. They're not competing with anybody. So they're not incentivized to give you discounts. They're not incentivized to do what's right for the consumer. Their refund policies, from what I've heard, are crap, right? Dog crap. And already as is, imagine then. And so they get to take over and basically gatekeep. And if you're going to play in a console, you're pretty much screwed. And talking about the licenses, digital licenses are never a good idea because they're not always permanently yours. And this leads to the second article. Sony to delete movies owned by PlayStation users. List includes more than 550 digital titles. Okay. So, I mean, look, if you were one of those poor people that decided that buying digital movies was a smart thing to do, I mean, and I can't blame you. I sort of can. I mean, the digital age, you should know better. But if you were one of the few that, or most, or many that bought digital movies, well, you're kind of screwed, right? PlayStation has notified users that it will soon delete more than 550 digital movies from users' PSN accounts, PlayStation Network accounts, due to licensing agreement with Studio Canal. Sony began sending out its warning message via email earlier this week. X/Twitter user Somatic was one of the first to share the notification, which says the move affects any Studio Canal content that they may have purchased, and this is via Kotaku. PlayStation lays it out clearly. The content will be removed from your video library. The movies will be deleted September 1st, 2026. In a couple months, basically. You can see the 551 digital titles affected in the list posted on PlayStation website. I heard Terminator 2 was one of them, wasn't it? There you go. Terminator 2. An iconic one. So 7.5 billion 2025 profit, but Sony are quite happy to shove their customers given half the chance. And again, look, as of 1 September 2026, due to our content licensing arrangements, you will no longer be able to watch any of your previously purchased Studio Canal content, and the content will be removed from your video library. Click here for a full list of affected titles that will be no longer supported. Thank you, by the way. PlayStation Store. Yeah, I mean, so essentially, when you buy digital, when you have a digital-only future, you're at the mercy of corporations, right? And so if they feel like, for example, this licensing agreement, or they just simply feel like they don't want you to own the license anymore, they can revoke it at any time. You have no physical recourse. It's not like a disc where you own it, and if they just stop selling the game, you still have the disc, right? Like older games that have ceased to produce, right? Like Spider-Man Web of Shadows or Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, like, they came out on PS3, Xbox 360 era, and they're not available online. They haven't been available online because of Activision for the Activision Marvel license, I believe, for like more than a decade probably. And yeah, I mean, if you don't own the disc, you can't play them. So you would have effectively wasted the money you spent, and you don't have access to those games. Think about that going forward. So not only is the potential of the PlayStation 6 going to be over $1,000, I don't think anybody disagrees with that. But we have a console that's going to be over $1,000 very likely, and you can only buy digital games with it. Completely at the mercy of Sony. Ladies and gentlemen, again, I don't have to tell you, use some common sense why this is a terrible idea for you and your wallet, right? And this affects your financial economy, and this affects your freedom economy, because now you don't have the freedom to choose whether you want to buy it on Amazon or at Walmart or whatever, even get discounts, right? If discounts are a thing of the past, it seems, right? So this is just a terrible idea. And so, but again, the good thing, some corporations have started pushing back, right? It's not going to be on here. And anyway, regardless though, the point being is that, so this affects you because, again, you can set the example. And then it doesn't help that Grand Theft Auto, right, as I'm sure you guys already know, GTA 5 announced that their first batch of, at least the first batch of game, release, right? The boxes that you can buy on Amazon, they only come with a code, which is ridiculous. I mean, what are we doing here? A box, an empty box with just a paper that has the code. Supposedly they're gonna release disc versions in December, whatever. That's what Rockstar says, but they're so in over their heads and completely overrated. Yes, I'm in the minority. I think GTA is overrated. It's not that interesting. It's okay. It's just normies want to normie and buy that, right? Don't even get me started on that. But the point is, so what do we do? You may ask V. V, what do we do? How do we fight back? And the only best way you can fight back is by not giving them your hard-earned money. That's simple. Don't give them the damn thing. Don't support them. Don't buy PlayStation 6. Hell, don't even buy any more PlayStation products. Don't buy PlayStation consoles. Don't buy PlayStation controllers. Don't buy PlayStation anything. Now, if you already have PlayStation and your controller that's out, I mean, I get it. But I'm saying, like, don't support them blindly just by buying their content, right? Move on to PC. There's a ton of options on the PC market for you to enjoy your gaming, right? You can buy, gaming laptops. You can buy gaming portable handhelds. I know the Steam Deck is out of stock, but, you have the, the Xbox Ally, right? Anyway, so you have different, now they're expensive, but they're out there. There are different options that you can get, or you can build your own PC, whatever. And for the digital storefronts themselves, you have Valve, right? I believe you have GOG.com, right? That website that preserves games too. Do your research. I think that's what it's called, GOG. And then you have other different platforms, right? But the point being is that there's competition, there's options, there's freedom, and this benefits your freedom economy to choose. You have the freedom to choose. And even though you don't physically own them, these different storefronts are incentivized to help, to get your business, right? And so they're competitive and they let you retain your licenses, and they're not basically as dangerous to have as, like, say, Sony, right? That's, again, if you want to stick with gaming, because like I stated before, a lot of games are trash nowadays anyway. I'd argue you're better off just replaying older games or whatever, if that's right, or just, which leads to option number 2, focus on yourself, right? Save your money, invest it. Listen, everything is getting more expensive. Like I stated earlier in this video, things are going to get more expensive, and you will not get pensions. I mean, if you're millennial, right, or Gen X or whatever, you're not getting a pension. I believe the goal to retire comfortably, if you're 30 or something right now, is by the time you retire at 60, you will need $2-3 million to retire. The future looks pretty dystopian. You're better off just investing in yourself, right? Hell, do a YouTube channel like I'm doing, Rumble channel, or teach yourself skills, get a promotion at work, whatever. But you're better off investing the time and energy into something that's going to be productive and make you money and be a proper investment of time than to be a consumer and play games that are trash nowadays anyway, right? So those are the options I can think of. Those are the ways you can fight back. And those are the ways I advise you to fight back. Do not support Sony. Do not support the predatory, business practices, because you're going to end up getting screwed. This is really going to affect you and those around you. And listen, again, I mean, if their console is going to be over $1,000, you're not going to get to keep the disc anymore. And because the PS6 is most likely going to be digital only, you can't even backwards compatible the PS5 disc that you have. It's a lose-lose situation. Get yourself informed, do your research on PC gaming, and see, explore the options out there, but not support Sony. Or again, completely check out of the market, focus on yourself, read books, invest in yourself, get right with God, etc., right? And do take a better course of action, right? And save your money, grow your money. That's all from me. If you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you guys want to keep watching my videos, because I'm going to cover wide array of topics. I'm going to call out all sort of deceptive practices and all sorts of BS out there. Again, whether it be corporations, gurus, only OF models, whatever. Whether it's just anybody that's trying to screw you or trying to deceive you, Hollywood movies, whatever. Like, I want to call it all out, and I want to say for what it is, and I want to give you the best advice to help you grow and do away with the slop or the garbage, whatever you want to call it. So if you guys want to follow me on this content, please hit the subscribe button. It does help a ton. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Peace.